Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts, sports journalist David Todd, and from SteelersDepot.com, Dave Bryan. Just a couple of Daves, chillin', talking Steelers. Now, here's Dave and Dave.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Dave. He's Dave Bryan of SteelersDepot.com, the place to get your latest and greatest Steelers information. And I'm David Todd. It's Season 9, Episode 28. And Dave, Steelers back home, coming off the win in Tampa. A big game Sunday night at Heinz Field, another nationally televised game. I know it's not a must-win game, but is this game more important than the game last weekend in Tampa?
Oh yeah, I think absolutely so because look, I mean it's good that they beat the Buccaneers and got their obviously the first win of the season. There were certain aspects of that game, especially offensively, that you'd like to see. We already covered the drive to close out the first half. That was nice to see, and several other aspects throughout the game as well too. Obviously defensively, still some things that need a whole lot of fixing over there. But even had they lost that game, which I can only imagine it's kind of I don't know what you'd kind of call the air or the talk or the narrative right now this past week. But I mean, boy, if they had somehow managed to lose that game, I can only imagine what things would be like right now. But even had they lost that game, I don't think the season would have been over. Now, obviously, it would have really magnified, and that was because, as we had said before the show, it really, when you look at the upcoming schedule here with these couple of games coming up against Baltimore and Cincinnati, those are the ones that you really have to win. And, I think heading into these next, how many of these next few games are against, your division rivals? I mean, 3 out of the next, 5 is it? Something like that. I mean, you damn sure better win 2 of them. And when you look at Baltimore right now, I mean, you could really put a hurting on Baltimore, I think, Sunday night, even though their season obviously wouldn't be over. They enter this game with a 2-1 record, but are 0-1 in the division. So they would be 0-2 in the division after this game. And on the flip side, if the Steelers lose this game, you're talking about a Pittsburgh team that's 0-1-1 against the division as well, too. And I personally, at this point, I don't think two teams are still, and I thought this at the beginning of the season, I don't think 2 teams are coming out of the AFC North this year. So all that means is win your damn division and let the chips fall where they may, in the playoffs there. So I think this is a big game. It's not a must win against the Ravens, but it's one that you probably want to think about winning.
Yeah, your point about the Ravens is right on. We can debate about how important home field advantage is in the NFL. It is not a determining factor. The small benefit for the Ravens would be obviously their 2 losses in the division would both be on the road. The Steelers would obviously be losing a home game, so that makes life a little bit more difficult. Obviously, the tie with the Browns was on the road there. Dave, let me come back and pull out to 30,000 feet. Does the fact that what's going on around the league, meaning, Buffalo goes into Minnesota, 17-point dog, and beats the Vikings. The Patriots, they lose again in a game where they didn't look good. Jacksonville, who dominated the Patriots the week before at home, lose at home to the Titans. Do all these things make you feel, and the fact that we're seeing points scored, in bunches by a lot of teams, do any of these things make you feel better about the Steelers? Or should we just evaluate the Steelers based on only the Steelers?
Yeah, I've never been a fan of, it's okay on our end because look at them. Because, look, can you really compare Ben to another quarterback in the league, quite honestly, the way he plays? There's a few that have, certain traits. I was asked this the other day by one of the listeners that ended up coming to Vegas, that I had some lunch with. And it's a good question. In a must-win game in the playoffs, David, who would you rather have, Aaron Rodgers or Ben Roethlisberger? Healthy.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the game. I would rather have Aaron Rodgers.
I answered that as well too, and I know we'll probably take some flack from that. I mean, just because that's what
I think it's universally accepted by, if you don't ask Steeler and Packer fans, I think you would get a kind of 90-10 or 80-20 at worst voting for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, people who didn't have skin in the game, generally accepted that Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in football.
Yes. And I'm not far behind him, probably Drew Brees, right?
Yeah, I mean, people are going to put Brees, Brady, and Rodgers as the top three, and I think kind of unquestionably Ben's the guy right behind him.
Yeah, 4 or 5, right there, obviously. Now get back to what you asked there. No, I don't compare. I don't. Obviously we do a lot of statistical, and I like to do a lot of statistical comparisons. But I think, the stats will tell you one thing, but sometimes the tape, or a lot of times the tape will tell you, a lot of other things. I mean, stuff like the busted coverages already this year. I mean, the stuff, the breakdowns with Artie Burns and all like that. You can't look at that and then compare it to maybe what happened in that game against the Rams and the Vikings, right? Because, I mean, there was just a lot of good scheme. Which came first, the scheme or the mismatches kind of thing,
Right.
And if you watch that game, and I know you at least saw a little bit of it last night, there was some damn good quarterback play in that game.
Absolutely. The passes you can argue, some of the passes that Cousins threw, you could say, that was almost intercepted. But if it's just out of the reach of the defender and hits Thielen in the hands, and he makes a good catch, that's a good pass. I mean, there are balls that, if a defensive back misplays a ball and it should have been caught, you say, and the receiver catches it, you say, okay, you got a little bit lucky. But some of those throws by both quarterbacks were, as good as you could throw them. I mean, the tight end, the touchdown throws, a couple of those touchdown throws, they were exquisite.
They really, what they call non-incomplete passes in the end zone, right?
Tell me.
Touchdowns. I mean,
right.
I mean, and how many? Good Lord, the amount of throws down the seam, and we see guys like Mahomes and heck, I mean, almost every quarterback that's played the Steelers so far this season is not afraid to go vertical down the seam. And I don't think I tried to think back last night. How when was the last time we saw that many throws down the seam, more than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage, get completed? And how many times do you see a running back go up the seam and score in the red zone? We saw that last night as well too. Poor Anthony Barr. I wonder if he owed Sean McVay any money or anything. Because he got hung out to dry on 3 of those where he had to cover Gurley, Cup on another one, and was it Cooks on another one? I forget who.
Well, and the point here is Anthony Barr is a good linebacker, and he just shows you, and it's like T.J. Watt, having to cover some of these guys. Like, you can be a great athlete, a really good linebacker, but it's just, it's not the premier part of your skill set.
I mean, and make no mistake about it, those are two or deemed, I guess this kind of circles back to initially what you said or was asking, both those defenses aren't shabby. I mean, you give me a Wade Phillips coach defense any day of the week. And then, of course, Zim, Mike Zimmer's got a nice background as well, too, when it comes to defensive side of football there as well, too. So, is it the rules that have led to this? Is it scheme? Is it the overflowing of maybe the college game a little bit more into the NFL game? Is it to all of them. I don't know, but I mean, it is. The funny thing is you look at I forget what the stat was I put up last night about the fourth quarter. You look at the total amount of plays run, which at one point I think in the fourth quarter was like 60 something, and I think there were 18 running plays by running backs at that point of the game. So I mean, are we in arena ball now, or
outside arena ball, or, certainly it's moving in that direction. I mean, again, we can debate whether it is good or bad. And I know I was having this conversation with the guy watching the first half last night. And look, when the Steelers defense in 1976 was shutting out 7 out of 10 opponents, and Mike Kruzak was playing quarterback because Bradshaw had gotten hurt, and they had to win every game, and they did. They gave up 23 points. And I mean, the numbers are absurd. Go look at them. Go look at the 1976 season. A lot of people, me included, think maybe that was the best Steeler team ever. This defense was unstoppable. They just, they shut everybody out. And so that was fun. And I have great childhood memories of that. But, clearly the safety issues are significant, and they've had to change the rules along the way. And this is where we are. And so you're trying to make the best of where we are. Do I like one better than the other? I don't know. I'm great. It's going to be hard to top the memories of my childhood, 4 Super Bowls, when in my teen years, 4 Super Bowl victories. So that was pretty great. But, this is the reality of today. And it's getting a lot closer to flag football or arena football or whatever you want to call it.
Is it, how much do you think the rules play into this?
100%. All of it.
Especially what we saw last night, between that game against the Vikings and Rams. I mean, it's just, good scheming on both sides of. Sean McVay. I mean, what else is there left to say about that guy? I mean, and Goff, he was seeing the field. You look at some of the instances of him scanning that field. It just wasn't one read kind of go kind of thing the whole time. There was a couple plays there where I thought, man, he just went through his progression so fast and then made the correct decision and the great throw there. I mean, that obviously we got some good, exciting young quarterbacks in the league, but the innovation too. I mean, do you see some of the stuff? I mean, Andy Reid is not any young, spring chicken by any stretch of imagination, but do you see some of the stuff he's doing right now offensively? And then you look at some of the stuff McVay and some of these other young offensive coordinators are doing. I guess that's what's keeping me occupied the most, because there is an aspect of me that really likes some good defensive football to be played. Still, I'd much rather have a 23-20 game than I would a 43 to 40 game, but I guess in a way of accepting all this, I'm immersing myself more in the why, you know what I'm saying? By looking at the tape and trying to figure out, okay, enjoying the aspect of the scheme and what's really happening, other than getting mad at just the other, the defensive team can't stop it.
It somewhat, it is fascinating that the innovation, up until 25 years ago, the innovation, was a top-down type innovation. What, high school and college teams did, what the NFL teams did, and it has completely changed where the innovation starts at the high school level. You saw kind of the spread offense through, the air raid offense, all these different things at the college level. And the spread offense is now, look, you talk about, Mike said, there was a good article about this, and they quoted Tomlin back in the day when he talked about the read option and RPOs. And he said it was the flavor of the month back then, with RG3. And he's, and these things will constantly iterate. Defense figures out how to stop something. The offense does something new. But it is much more a wide open game now. In the spread game, and these guys who were spread quarterbacks, he said, you couldn't play in the NFL. Well, now you've seen Goff and now you've seen Mahomes, and now the idea is, you don't have to take any snaps under center. You can play spread offense football in the NFL, and we're seeing it big time this year.
And Eric Weddle, funny that the Steelers are playing the Ravens this week because, what was it about? I forget how long ago the interview was. I think it was older during the offseason maybe. They're asking Weddle about RPOs and all like that, and he wants to say that it's a trend, that defenses will figure out a way to stop it. Well, the thing with RPOs, man, is that, and when you put that together with what they call package plays, and then other aspects of just pro set offenses, it really is kind of hard to stop, if you ask me. What's next for defenses? I mean, it's so hard to play zone now, right? I mean,
it's hard to play anything, really. I mean, you are better off playing zone if you can get a pass rush, and you have to know what guys are doing. But I mean, good gracious, the problem with playing man right now is, with mobile quarterbacks. You saw the one play where Fitzpatrick, even the Steelers play man on the left side of the defense, and Fitzpatrick sees the read, two DBs running with their backs turned to him and nobody in the flat. And it was 17 yards, 15 yards, whatever, smooth sailing. I mean, it is. Look, there's been plenty of criticism of Keith Butler and Mike Tomlin and the Steelers defense, and most of it is warranted. So I'm not giving them a hall pass, but it is tough as hell to play defense in today's NFL.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, you need more athletes. That's why they go after athletes, because you need athletes to run with athletes.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Because I think the only way you're going to be able to combat a lot of it, man, you look at just some of the stuff that, like I said, like Reed and McVay and Doug Peterson and some of these coaches are doing right now with the pre-snap stuff. With all the window dressing and all, it does kind of look like arena ball, to some degree there. And I think the only way, I think the way to combat that is to get more athletes on athletes and just let them run and play a little bit more my guy against your guy kind of thing. But, boy, that game last night, it was exciting because of the aspect that it was more good quarterback play than anything else, I thought.
Yeah, it is. And here's another thing. Remember how many articles we've seen over the last 3 years about how, quarterback in the NFL stinks and blah, 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 blah. Not the case anymore. And if any of these young kids, Darnold and Rosen and, Josh Allen, et cetera, obviously Baker Mayfield, if these kids come in and play well, first of all, you're going to have a lot of bad teams get better quickly. And second of all, we're going to have a ton of, good court. We can say whatever we want to say about Andy Dalton, but Andy Dalton's a good NFL quarterback. I mean, he's not one of the 5 or even maybe the 10 best, but he's a good NFL quarterback. If you have Andy Dalton, you can go places. Look, I don't know that Andy Dalton wins you a Super Bowl, but I sure as hell didn't think Nick Foles would win you a Super Bowl.
Well, you could say same thing about Matt Ryan, right? You could say probably the same thing about. Oh, just look down the list right now. I mean,
Cam's won a Super Bowl, but I mean, I'm not sure I take Cam over those guys. I mean, Cam is a unique guy in the league because he's been with speed. I mean, he's just so damn big and still a running quarterback. But when you get, I don't know where Phillip Rivers he's going to be a very tough guy to judge at the end of his career. I mean, I do think he'll end up in the Hall of Fame eventually, regardless of whether, he has a Super Bowl win or not. But, taking him out of the equation, it is kind of all those, what's going to happen with all the young guys, Luck, Mariota, Winston, those guys who are getting a little bit older now. You've got the elite guys we talked about. But, man, there's Alex Smiths of the world. There's good quarterbacks out there who, you can win with.
So what's the difference now?
The difference now is they don't get killed. They can stand in the pocket. So most of them are going to play 16 games a season. That's a starter. So you're not going to have to go to your backup as often as you used to in the past. And because of the rules on the other side, they get, these roughing the passer calls and all that. So you get an extra half second to throw. You might get a 15-yard penalty. The defense can't bang these guys. So, the whole game is opened up. I mean, people laugh about it, but you talk about giving a quarterback an extra half second or an extra second on every single play. And it makes a massive difference in the game.
Well, and nowadays they get the ball out so damn quick anyway. You can't get to the quarterback in 2.5 seconds, right? I mean, if a quarterback holds on to the football longer than 2.5 seconds, you better be on him. What this thing is coming to, it's obviously been, defense can help. They say defense wins championships, or did back in our day. I really still believe that today, because I think once you have so many decent teams when you get to playoff time now, that when you get in the playoffs, regardless of how good your quarterback is, you need your defense to win at least one game for you in the playoffs, and maybe two, right?
I mean, look, there's going to be seasons where, your offense will win, the offense will carry a team to the Super Bowl for sure. But, what is unique, there are a lot of teams with good offenses. I mean, you just look right now, I don't know what happened in the Vikings-Bills game, but you just look at offenses, and obviously the Chiefs and the Rams are cut above everybody else in the NFL right now. So, that's point one. But elite defenses, those are way fewer and further between.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is, I think, whoever can start showing, let's take this the rest of this season, for instance, whoever has a quarterback, that can move the football, push the football down the field, and then on top of it have, some semblance of a defense to go with it. That's why the Rams, I think the Rams right now are in a perfect position, especially now. I mean, look, the 49ers just lost Jimmy. They're not going to get, who's going to challenge them right now in that division? Seattle maybe. But other than that, I mean, the Rams are in perfect position right now to make a run at this thing, and maybe even be good for the next few years on top of that, because of how young, and they got some of these Goff obviously hasn't hit that contract yet, and they just locked Gurley up on top of it here. So I think rolling this all the way back to the Steelers now, you like to see them play a little bit better defense.
And that's it, because and again, look, I know they're Steeler fans, and some people have said this on Twitter, and it's like, there are going to be Steeler fans pulling their hair out if this is the season the Patriots go 8-8, and it seems like the AFC is there for the taking. Now, I'll argue right now the AFC is there for the taking for the Kansas City Chiefs right now. But
look here, they're not playing good defense.
No, their defense isn't any good either. But
yeah.
I mean, people may not want to hear this, but their offense is better than the Steelers' offense right now. So, but the point being, everybody's had to go through the Patriots essentially for the last 15 years. One way or the other. There have been other good teams, and the Patriots have been beaten, but they've been there every year. And if this is the year they go 8-8, and we'll see what happens this week when Miami plays them. But if the Dolphins were to win the AFC East, Steeler fans would be tearing their hair out if they're not there at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, look at we talked at the head of the season. I said, well, the Patriots, I think they can lose 2 of these first 4 games of theirs. Now, obviously picking the Jaguars to be one of those wins wasn't really going out on a limb, I don't think. But I mean, did we really think they were going to lose to Detroit? And I mean, there's a possibility. I mean, you got the Miami Dolphins haven't lost yet, haven't looked bad. I mean, what happens if the Patriots start 1-3? You're right. I mean, it's prime for the picking now. You got to figure at some point the Patriots are going to get some wide receivers in there. Obviously, they're going to get Edelman back here soon. And look, Richard Matthews was just cut or going to be released by the Titans. You can bet where he's going to end up at. He's going to end up in New England in a matter of a week. I'll be surprised if that doesn't happen by Sunday. So, you're right. I mean, this is a situation where this thing is lining up great for the Steelers in the AFC side of things, because you're thinking, all right, well, maybe the Chiefs are going to be the toughest competition in on this side of things, and we really should kick ourselves if we don't, make it at least to the Super Bowl this year.
Well, we'll see, right? I mean,
right? It's still early.
The Steelers, yeah. Well, okay. So we should get into some of this stuff, but let me ask you this question right now: Who are the best 4 teams, 5 teams in the AFC right now?
In the AFC right now, Kansas City.
Basically,
obviously.
The question is, do 3 games change any opinions about anything?
No.
Yeah, I agree.
That's why you could kind of look. That's why I wasn't. That was a game against the Buccaneers. They could have won or lost. Right? I mean, we knew that going in because of the way they had played in the first 2 games. You think, 6 months ago we say, oh, they're going to play. As soon as Jameis Winston is suspended, thinking, oh, man, go ahead and circle that one as a W for the Steelers. Or you get to game time, you're thinking, I don't know. Well, you picked against them, didn't you? You would have never done that 6 months ago in that game. And I picked them to win by 1 or 2 points or whatnot, thinking they're going to be a close game, that kind of thing. Who are the best teams in the AFC right now? Kansas City. That's it.
That's it. That's the only team we know is good. That's right. That's the only team we're sure is good.
To me, that's it, and that's only because of their offense. Because holy moly, they can move the damn football and score. That's it. So, what are we left?
Who are the good teams in the NFC?
The Rams, I think, are going to be there just because I think they can at certain points play some defense. I think you have to have New Orleans in there and Philadelphia. I think you got 3 of them over. Well, Packers too. So I think there's more in the NFC. I'd
actually put the Vikings in there as well.
Yeah, okay. I mean, 5 teams. I mean, I think one of those. If Chicago had a little bit better, more consistent offense,
if Trubisky were Mahomes, yeah, you'd say put the Bears in there, but he has not looked good.
You just don't know. You just don't have confidence. I don't think in their offense just yet. Maybe that'll change 3 weeks from now. We are only 3 weeks and 1 game into this, right? I mean, I don't think you can. I don't think we have a good list of the haves and the have-nots yet.
All right, let's get to the injury report. Get into this Steelers-Ravens game.
I wonder how many listeners we lost just talking about the rest of
it. I think a lot of listeners like a little good football talk now and then.
Yeah. I mean, I would hope so. I mean, look, the state of the game is a lot different than what David and I grew up with. Now, I know we live in a Madden world, though, now, so,
in a fantasy football world. I mean, this is what, people. You look at your fantasy team, a lot of guys got points for their fantasy owners last night.
Absolutely, they did. Okay, on to the injury report there. Definitely a different-looking injury report for the Steelers on Thursday than the one that came out on Wednesday. Not practicing, the only player not to practice was center Marquise Pouncey because of a coach's decision. That's not a big deal at all. In fact, I was surprised he didn't get Wednesday off instead of Thursday, but I guess I needed some people in there. So Pouncey, he's going to be fine. Limited on Thursday after sitting out on Wednesday. Were Juju Smith-Schuster with that abdomen. I'm not really worried about that. Cornerback Mike Hilton with the elbow. Now, that's going to be an interesting thing to watch with that hyperextension there. Dr. Mel wrote us up a nice piece once again on Steelers Depot on Wednesday morning. If listeners have not read that yet, make sure you get by to read that. And I think Mike Hilton said pretty much the biggest obstacle right now is just straightening that thing out. You
got to think if Hilton. I'm just trying to think. Would you look? He can obviously run. He can do things, but if you can't straighten your arm out, one is you obviously risk injuring it again because you can't do certain things. And I wouldn't play. I wouldn't play him if he can't straighten his arm out. I wouldn't play him.
Yeah,
unless you're going to cast it up on him, and so that he can't have it. He can't move it one way or the other. But I would, I love Mike Hilton, man. I think Mike Hilton's the best. Look, everybody's going to say Cam or, I don't know who else they're going to pick, but Mike Hilton has been one of the Steelers' 2 or 3 best defensive players since the beginning of last year. And he was good in that game. He might be their best defensive player so far this year.
In the secondary, for sure, right?
Yeah. I mean,
no offense to Joe Hayden, but I mean, let's face it, that one in the end zone. Look, Joe Hayden.
Joe Hayden missed a game, so that's I can't.
Right. Joe Hayden has been the Joe Hayden that I think everybody maybe a little bit better than what maybe most people. He's a little bit better than what I thought he would be when the Steelers assigned him. But make no doubt about it, he has missed some games. Joe Hayden has. And you just hope.
Now he missed 5 or 6 last year and one this year, so he's missed about a third of them.
Right. So, you just hope you can keep. Look, I mean, you want him on that other side because of he stabilizes that other side. I think more than anything. Is he going to give up a big play every now and again? Yes. But is he going to be able to bounce back from a big play and be in the right position on the next play? I think so. So that's, it gives you a guy that you can have some level of confidence in. I think having him on that side. The other side is a whole different story right there. But back to the injury report. Let's get through this. I mean, I think Friday is going to be, a telling day for Mike Yeldon. I mean, if he doesn't go full today, I mean, hard to imagine him playing Sunday night against the Ravens. So we'll see there. Now, also limited on Thursday. Well, we'll have to see what happens with Juju, but I would be surprised if Juju does not practice fully on Friday. But stranger things have happened. Also limited on Thursday was safety Morgan Burnett after going full on Wednesday. So he's going the wrong direction with that groin, and I'll go ahead and speculate about his groin. I'll go ahead and speculate that he's going to be inactive Sunday night against the Ravens there. Boy, what a disappointment. The Steelers sign these veteran safeties, and they come in and immediately have groin problems. Didn't Mike Mitchell have a groin problem right off?
Whole career, so, he had, 2. That was me sitting there on draft night when the Steelers took a DB, and God, it was I don't know if it was Keith Butler or if it was actually Cornell Lake who dropped the fact that he had two both groins were a problem for him that year.
I have problems keeping up with one groin, but moving on. We'll see what happens with Morgan Burnett, but I wouldn't get your hopes up at some point anyway. Look, I mean, you want Edmonds on the field, right? I mean, I guess the only you get into the whole dime situation there. Maybe that's where you would definitely like Burnett on the field there, but they had Nat Burry on the field in some of those situations last week. Let me ask you that. I know it's a little bit early for this, but they signed Burnett to a 3-year deal. Is he going to be one and done, David?
Yeah, he's gonna be one and done. I was just gonna take you to the same place. He's gonna be one and done if he's not on the field a lot. Yeah, if he's not playing, if he's not healthy and playing, it's gonna be one and done.
I mean,
in fact, if I had to bet today, I would bet yes.
I would too. I mean, because look, you're going to want Edmonds out there, right? I mean, you Sean Davis. We'll see how the rest of the year goes with him. Moving positions there. So the question becomes,
and they kept Marcus Allen. I mean, which surprised me.
That's true too. And then I mean, look, I mean, this guy, as good as it's looking that maybe the Bostic signing was. And make no bones about it. I like the Bostic signing just because of what he can give you against the run. Because he's a smart dude.
He was good. He might have been their best player in the Tampa game.
Yeah.
On that side of the ball.
Yeah. And look, I mean, should he have been burnt on that one by? You do not want as much as we're going to pump maybe John Bostic in this podcast and maybe throughout the season here at certain points. You don't want John Bostic running with people.
You don't want any inside linebacker running with you. I mean, Luke Kuechly maybe, but you don't want your average inside linebacker covering Travis Kelce or whomever.
You don't want Vince Williams running with him either. It just none of those guys that the Steelers currently have inside. That's why I think at some point, and maybe in the next couple of games here, maybe they try to get Matthew Thomas in some of these packages, situations type thing. But obviously you don't want to get Matthew Thomas on the field until he knows the defense. And that's going to probably be the big hold up with him. But back to Bostic. I mean, Bostic has given you you have to be happy right now with what Bostic's given you. And boy, there were a lot of people complaining about him early on in the
after the Chiefs game, yeah.
Well, the preseason too. You go back to the preseason, they just really all over Bostic. But I mean, look, you go back and look at this guy's tape. He's good against the run.
He rushed the passer well in that Tampa game.
Yeah, he did that as well too. And I don't know if we already got a film room up this morning. Matthew does on John Bostic making an impact in that Tampa Bay game. So I invite people to go by Steelers Depot and check that out as well too. But anyway, back to the whole Morgan Burnett thing. Disappointing so far, so hopefully he can get on the field, and we'll see what happens Sunday night against the Ravens with him. The rest of the injury report, it looks like David DeCastro and Marcus Gilbert have practiced fully both days this week. That's a good sign. I mean, we'll see if they're able to, obviously, unless as long as they don't go backwards Friday. They should have.
You would think they're going if they're so it gives you back the offensive line is back. So what's that leave us for inactives? Banner and Rudolph,
Filer probably.
Justin Hunter, Burnett,
Hilton, maybe Hilton,
and
trying to think who the last one would be. There, you already got two. Let's see, you got Rudolph, you got your two offensive linemen and Banner and Filer. You got Justin Hunter down. You got maybe two injured players in Burnett and Hilton.
And D-line, or what do we got?
Oh yeah. LT Walton.
Yeah, LT's numbers.
So that barring any that should be pretty straightforward on the inactives there. Okay. How
about a word from our sponsors?
All right. Okay, coming back out of that, and we appreciate everybody's response to John Eisenberg. I think a couple people have already gone online and bought his book as well too, and that that certainly means a lot, not only to John but us as well too. Anytime you can support the guests that we have on our show, it has probability that we'll have that guest back on the show type of thing there as well. Now, real quick about the Ravens injury report. Have you read anything about Terrell Suggs? I mean, I forgot to look that up this morning, but he's missed 2 practices with a knee injury here, so I think he's going to be a name to watch on their Friday injury report. I haven't read anything really stating that he's going to be in danger of missing the game, but he's really the only name on the Ravens injury report to watch on Friday.
Yeah, and I have not read about Suggs, so I don't have any good insight on that one.
All right, about this matchup on Sunday night. The thing I think I'm most surprised about with the Ravens so far this season is the fact that those 3 wide receivers that they have, John Brown, Crabtree, and Snead, have really come in quickly and been able to work and fit in that offense. I mean, how many times do you see an offense bring in a whole
new cast,
and it go well? In fact, if you look at some of the advanced metrics on the next gen stats on NFL.com, Flacco doesn't have a bad intended completed yards versus intended air yard stat. Normally he's been way low. His completed air yards is under 4, and his intended air yards 7, and there's just been a gap in there kind of thing. That really hasn't necessarily been the case so far. So I think they've been doing a good job of being able to get Flacco to push the ball down the field more this year, and that's obviously a concern when it comes to the Steelers' defense here.
And look, let's be honest about this. The way the Ravens have attacked the field over the past few years is throw the ball deep or dump it off to your backs and tight ends. I mean, they have not had a mid-level passing game. I mean, it just hadn't been part of what they do well.
Yeah, not since really Torrey Smith burned them a couple times years ago. On down the field and all like that. But I think. I think these receivers and what they're doing offensively has kind of led to a resurgence of Joe Flacco, if you will, or if you even want to call that. Obviously, he's played better. So we'll leave it at that. The offensive line that they have in place right now is definitely adequate. Stanley and Yanda, and you go through the five there. They're definitely fine. I think. Look, Bud Dupree is going to have to win against Stanley. I mean, you can't keep going week in and week out and saying, well, and make no mistake, Bud had a decent game against a couple of decent games this year. But when you look at it snap by snap, how great has Bud played this year? The answer is not.
We see flashes, and every time I see a flash, I want it to be the way it is. But that they're flashes because we don't see that level of consistency.
I mean, his stats will tell you one thing, but the tape just tells you it's not there, And where's T.J. Watt been since week one?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you're not going to get any argument for anybody who's watched this team since, the middle of, again, I'm not going to put John Connor's fumble and giving up the ball at the 1 yard line on the Steelers defense, but they gave up another touchdown to the Browns in that game. And since then, they haven't stopped anybody. I mean, they didn't stop Tampa. I mean, you can call turnover stops if you want. But the Tampa turned it over 4 times in the second quarter. And I give the Steelers defense all the credit in the world for that. They had a really great quarter. I mean, that's as good as it gets. But, you look at the last 9 quarters or so, and that was a good one. And the rest of them, not so much.
Alex Collins in the backfield. I've talked about this guy, since he kind of burst on the scene here. He's really a fun running back to watch. He can do it all for you, and he's gashed the Steelers for a couple big plays so far during his career. Now, is this the same kind of Ravens team that's going to be? Remember a couple years ago when they ran that outside zone and the Steelers just had no answer in a couple of those games. Is this a Ravens offense that can consistently do that? I don't think so. This time around, I just think I don't think they're kind of built like that. It'd be interesting to try to see if they try to test the Steelers more horizontally when the Steelers have been burnt vertically a lot this year. But I think, and this is dangerous. I think the Steelers their defense matches up good against the Ravens' run in this game. Javarius Allen, I'm surprised they don't use him a little bit more than what they do. I mean, they've used him as kind of a goal line guy and then a little bit in the passing game. I kind of thought they'd use him a little bit more in the passing game than they have so far this season. So it'd be interesting to see how that comes about. But, like anything else, and I tell you that Mark Andrews, that kid that tight end out of Oklahoma,
love Mark Andrews. Been a big fan. If the Steelers had gone that way in the draft at some point, look, that's why when in talking to John, that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure the Ravens expected him to be there after taking Hurst. I felt like that was a great pick. He's a receiver. I mean, look, he's a receiving tight end, but he's good.
He's more to that, but I mean, if you talk about tight ends that. Are they more blockers or are they more Gronk kind of thing? He would be more to me on the old schoolish, a little bit left of center, if you will, more back to the traditional kind of tight end. I think more than anything else. So I've always been a fan of tight ends that can do it, more the do it all, and I think he's kind of that. Now, I don't think Hayden Hurst is going to make his debut in this game. He's been limited both days this week and hasn't played yet, so I don't think the Steelers have to worry too much about him, and that's probably a good thing, as far as this week goes. I do worry. The guy I worry about with their receiving core the most, I think, is Smokey Brown. John Brown. I think that guy can really get on top of you, and I think him and really Snead too. Snead can big play you as well. You have to protect the edges. The outside, because I think that's where the Steelers they're going to try to scheme to get those guys over the top down the field. Do you view Flacco as really being a guy that's going to take a lot of shots down the seam? Do you want Joe Flacco throwing down the seam? Are you going to invite that?
Up the seam in the middle of the field, or you mean on the outsides?
But between the numbers.
Look, I don't know how
vertically. I mean, vertically.
Yeah, we've seen in the past with Pitta and some of the guys where he's taken shots against the Steelers. I don't know that that's Flacco's the best throw that he makes. It's not the best throw Ben makes. I expect them like you to take to try to find Brown over the top a little bit. And then, I've said this before, Michael Crabtree in the Anquan Boldin mold, Michael Crabtree is a really good receiver. I mean, if Michael in Oakland, the things he did there, I didn't think Michael Crabtree had a lot left, and I was dead wrong. He is a very capable receiver and a very solid number 2 guy. Problem is all 3 of those guys, none of those guys really profile as a number 1 guy.
Yeah, and you look at their stats, and the ball's been kind of spread out by them, and I think that's where Flacco also wins right now too. Is he's not focusing, him being able to spread the ball as usual. I think when it gets to Flacco, you got to put him in the third and long situations there. I almost think you have to invite him trying to throw over the middle in this game or up the seam in this game. I want him. I want him to try to beat me that way. And of course, I think I've said that now every game this season. Make these quarterbacks beat you down the field and up the middle, and a lot of them have. I think you just got to get this thing kind of figured out here because. Look, Artie has come out and said he's not very confident. That's not what you want your starting cornerback saying. Sensabaugh is just a guy. Because of the potential injury to Mike Hilton, you're probably going to have to play Cam Sutton inside, right? I mean, you just don't give up the big play. And I think the Steelers are one of the teams that have given up the most big plays, whether it be, in fact, here's a stat from ESPN NFL matchup this morning. Most explosive plays given up, and they consider an explosive play a rush for 15. I wish we'd get a universal standard here. Do you consider a explosive run 10 yards or more, 15 yards or more, or 20 yards or more? People want to classify this thing different things. Now, obviously, an explosive play with the wide receiver has been 20 yards or more, and all. But anyway, the most explosive plays given up this year by defenses when classified as 15 yards or more by rushes or 20 yards or more by receptions, the Chiefs have given up 23 and the Steelers have given up 23. They lead the league in that category. We saw against the Buccaneers they had 8, something like that. I mean, just for God's sakes, limit some of these explosive plays and watch the difference that it makes. If you make some of these quarterbacks go 10, 12 plays to score a damn touchdown, it's going to make a world of difference here. You cannot give up these, not only just explosive plays at 20 yards or more, but the 30s and the 40s and these kind of real big field flippers here. So I think... And once again, this danger. I think the Steelers match up good against this Ravens offense this first time around against the run. I think they can hold this Ravens offense to 4 or fewer explosive passing plays. I just think they match up good that way.
Yeah, look, I mean, this would be the game for the Steelers to, like I said, that you don't have a clear number 1 receiver. You have a quarterback who they've seen a ton of times and they know what it takes. He's not going to be particularly mobile out of the pocket. So, you're going to get a home game on a Sunday night. The crowd should definitely be on your side. This is the game where, you get a chance to put things together. Let's talk about the other side of the ball, though, because, the Steelers offense, as we've said, Ben in the last, for Ben, the last, 6 quarters have been, exceptional. 7 quarters, starting with the second quarter against Kansas City, he's played very well. The pick against Tampa, it was a good defensive play. I'll give credit where it was due on the defensive side.
He shouldn't have thrown that football. I mean,
probably shouldn't have. I mean, obviously in hindsight, yep, he shouldn't have. I mean, he thought he saw Juju there, and it's hard to knock Juju. Juju didn't come back to the football at that point, but the way his body was going and he's moving, that would have been difficult to do as well. So, look, the other side made the play, but Ben's 30 for 38. mostly good throws, but he still hasn't connected deep. And what's interesting here is you play a team that has two really good safeties, but they're not young safeties anymore. I mean, both these guys signed in free agency. They're really solid guys, and they're questions, but they have questions at the corner position, right?
Yeah. Well, look at how old's Carr? I mean, look, Marlon Humphrey's a good young cornerback on the edge. So they don't have Jimmy Smith, obviously. Tavon Young's, I think he's okay in the slot. That should be a fun matchup to watch. Juju versus Tavon. I really think so. And you go back and you watch how MJ, what's the kid they just faced this past week in the slot? MJ, why can't I think of his last name? But I thought he played fairly well in the slot in that game. That pass breakup, at the end of the 2-minute drill, sure Juju should have had that. And then the other one in the red zone there too, where they snuck. Were they able to rub MJ? Is it MJ Stewart? I think it's MJ Stewart. Where they were able to rub MJ Stewart off out of that bunch in the red zone as well too. I thought he did a good job of recovering, keeping Juju out of the end zone on that play as well too. But back to this Ravens game. I think Tavon Young versus Juju should be a good matchup. I think Marlon is okay on the outside. I think John hit on us with this the other day. I think you want to try to exploit Carr, and the last 2 or 3 games against the Ravens, Antonio Brown's averaged something like 126 receiving yards, right around in there. This game really sets up, I think, for a big one for Antonio Brown, for sure. And it would be nice to see, as good as Ben's been the last few halves or whatnot, game and a half or what have you. He's got to start connecting down the field and outside the numbers, and we just haven't seen that yet. And I think this is an opportunity once again where he's going to get a chance to go over Marlon on one side or go over Carr on the other side. He's going to have, I think he needs to big play them a couple of times on the outside. And if he does that, it's going to open up a lot more in the middle of the field to Washington, to Juju, to obviously Vance McDonald. I think Vance McDonald can have a huge impact in this game as well. Did you go back and rewatch that 2-minute drill, which really was a minute?
Yeah, we did, and we talked about it. Watching one that wasn't done very well yesterday in the first half, the end of the first half by the Vikings. He did everything perfectly, and I made a point of saying that because look, I've been very critical over the years of how they do this, and they did it just right. I mean, the play calling was good, the execution was good, the use of timeouts was good. It was great. It was great.
When you go back and you watch that they ran 10 plays. One of them was a penalty, so I think it was a 9-play. It was a 9-play, 75 yards. I just wrote it up. It was a minute. It used up a minute 9?
Minute 9 or something. Yeah.
Minute 9. Now, obviously, they had to cover. They were able to use the out of bounds to stop the clock a few times. But when you go back and you watch that play for play, and you watch how they utilize the motion. And
one of the big plays was using Connor over the middle of the field to get that 20 yards right up the middle, and I think it was the second play of the drive.
Right. Well, the first two plays of that drive really set that whole thing up. You ran Antonio and I think Washington out of a slot. They stack them in the slot there. Run a quick kind of short switch route there where Washington goes to 12 yards and Antonio 6 yards on first down. You let the clock run, okay? Because
absolutely the right thing to do. You have plenty of time, and you don't know that you're getting a first down, so you want to make that's. And this is why I talk about this all the time, and I don't like the call. But if the Steelers are in that spot or anywhere inside their own 25, they run that wraparound draw on first down all the time to try to get those 6 or 7 yards and to actually use some clock so that if they get stopped, the other team doesn't have the full quantity of time that they had.
Right, and I think the most clock they burned on that whole entire drive was on that first down play, and that's acceptable. Okay,
and that's by design. I really, honestly think that's by design, and I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
I mean, I don't love the wraparound draw. That wasn't a wraparound draw, so that's fine.
Right, you get 6 yards, 20 seconds ticks off the clock. While you're getting lined up, that's adequate right there. And then the second down play is more of, look, can we get this thing to midfield? And can we get a first down here? That's your sole purpose right there. Can we get a first down on second and 4? Because the worst thing that you want to happen there is an incompletion that stops the clock, or a run that goes for nowhere, and you're facing a third. Because Tampa Bay is going to call a timeout if you don't get this thing right on second and 4, right? Because that's why you're letting the clock run, because you don't want to.
Right, and the odds are you're throwing the ball, so Tampa may not have to call it if you throw an incompletion. So that's why you want to call a relatively safe pass, right?
Right, and they were playing. They were trying to protect the chains on a zone drop on that one.
Yeah, they were playing a bit soft. Yeah, on the outsides.
Right, so you dump it off to James Conner, and you get a nice block, but you get more than what you bargained for there. Not only do you get the first down, but you get James Conner out to the 49-yard line. Then it's on. Then it really is on. In fact, Tampa Bay changes up. They go to more cover one man in that situation. But even the play calling and how Ben read things from the rest of that drive on, it was just masterful. It really was. I've got it broken down play by play from the All 22 on Steelers Depot. And if you haven't seen it yet, go by and check it out, because really the final 8 plays on that really were masterful, and really you can throw out the 2 red zone plays, the incomplete to Juju that was really essentially a drop, and then the pass interference to Antonio Brown. You can eliminate those on top of. But I guess what I'm getting at here, I hate to circle back to regurgitating that drive in the Tampa Bay game, is you see them be able to move the football like that. And there's no reason why. I guess what I'm saying now at this point is the way they clicked on that drive, and really in the first half of that game, there's no reason why the Steelers should not put up 30 points a game offensively every game this year. Really, there's not. As long as everybody stays healthy. And look, you even did that with Matt Filer and B.J. Finney on the right side of your line, and that's no disrespect to them, but there is and you did it without Le'Veon Bell. There's no reason why this offense should not put up at least 30 points a week.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen, but they're good. And just to finish on the clock management thing, there are times when even I think some of the stuff people say about clock management is crazy. Joe Banner said the Bucs screwed up because on first down of their previous drive, they snapped the ball with 15 seconds left on the play clock. They then, on second down, threw incomplete, third down, incomplete. And so he said, because the Steelers scored with whatever it was, 6 seconds left, let's say, that 15 seconds cost the Bucs a touchdown. That's so far from a good analysis that it's just laughable. Because, A, the Bucs had 2 more plays to run. They're trying to save time for themselves and have their own drive. So to critique it that way, that is 100% hindsight. Let me tell you, I'm doing the math with 6 seconds left. You could have found 15 seconds. Yeah, you could have found 15 seconds in the first quarter as well. That's just ridiculous.
Back to the Steelers. Back to the Steelers offensively. I mean, this is a Ravens defense that I think it can be run on a little bit. I don't think you're going to have a ton of success against it, but I think it sets up for a few nice runs for James Conner. The biggest thing I think with James Conner right now is you have to get a higher percentage of successful runs out of him. He can break the 20-yard run for you. The couple of nice runs that he had late in that game against Tampa kind of helped skew things in his favor a little bit. Let's be but you can't cherry pick those things out of there. And how much of that was the Steelers forcing themselves to run a little bit left in that game and not so much behind Filer and Finney? I don't know. But I think you need a higher percentage of successful runs from Connor earlier in the game than what you most definitely got against Tampa Bay there. But I think if you continue to use them the way they've been using them out of the backfield, and all should be fine. Quite honestly, when you look at, and I want to study the Ravens a little bit more before game time, obviously, but I mean I've seen them play earlier in the year against Cincinnati, and obviously watched their other couple of games there. I think on both sides of the ball, the Steelers match up well against them.
Yeah, look, I agree, and we're going to find that out with our picks. So why don't we get there? But first, tell you about our guys at mybookie.com. You've heard Dave and I have been talking about them here.
Mybookie.ag.
Mybookie.ag. You'd think I'd have this down by now, but you've heard Dave and I talking about them over the course of the season here. They've been running a couple special bonuses. If you haven't made a deposit this season and you're looking to get in because now you got 3 weeks worth of data and you feel like you got to read on teams and you're going to give it to Vegas and not give it to the man, check out mybookie.ag. They've got this $1,000 match on your first initial deposit. And if you have already deposited, but you got to go back to the well or you want to ramp things up a little bit, you can go to they have a $25 bonus on that if you deposit after 7 p.m. Eastern time. Trying to spread these things out. Obviously, they don't want everybody coming in Saturday at 11:30 before the college games or Sunday at 12:30 before the NFL game. So that's a special way you can get an extra 25. And of course, the promo codes for both of these things on the initial deposit, use the promo code TERRIBLE. Of course, you know how to spell that. And if on the other one, use the promo code TERRIBLE25. Look, you play, they pay. That's how it works. Check it out. mybookie.ag, promo code TERRIBLE and TERRIBLE25.
And they got great fantasy options as well too. I've been playing with on top of it. So plus, I've never been one to use mobile. Because I don't leave the house much. I don't know, but I'm talking.
Mobile app's easy to use, and you can check all that stuff out. And all these, these guys have cutting edge websites, mobile, fantasy, all their stuff's cutting edge. So check it out, mybookie.ag. Basically, use the reason you're using the promo codes is tell them Dave and Dave sent you. That's how it works.
All right, I gave it to you pretty good. I think I told you I was going to catch up with you, and I
knew going into the 4:00 games I needed like a sweep to be in the running, and I don't think that happened. So I did not do well in the early games.
And last night we had the old push last night. So
yeah, we're on opposite sides, and 7 finished at 7. So. So it goes. All right. Well, courtesy of mybookie.ag, let's get to this week's games. And as I pull them up here, sorry, take me 1 second. Into their sports book.
Patriots -7 against the Dolphins. Patriots at home -7 against the Dolphins is the first one on the board.
Well, life and history would tell you to get on the Patriots here for kind of a turnaround. This is a big week. The last I saw, I think Josh Gordon's going to go this week, and then they'll get Edelman back next week. So it's going to change dramatically. Obviously that would open things up for Hogan and Gronk and change the receiving core a bit. We'll see how all that plays out. I imagine Josh Gordon starts with kind of package plays, specific things for him, 15 or 20 plays in this game. Dave, I'm going to go against kind of all historical logic, and I'm going to take the Dolphins. I don't know. I don't think the Dolphins win this game, but I don't think this is a 30-10 Patriots win. I think this is a competitive football game.
I'm going the opposite direction. Look, you go back to that game. What was it, Thursday night last year? The Dolphins know how. I mean, look, we know how to beat Brady. It's easier said than done. You got to keep them off the field, and Detroit did a good job of that in that game. But New England really hurting for receiving weapons. But I think Gordon will help them out a little bit there too, as well. Plus, look, they owe the Dolphins one, and I think they get it, and I think they get it big. So I have no problem. 3 units, Patriots -7.
All right, the Houston Texans going to Indianapolis. Indianapolis -1.5 from Captain Andrew Luck. Dearest mother, The Texan men have reached the outskirts of town. However, they do not intend to attack until Sunday, as they must follow tradition and barbecue beforehand. Our unit will use this time to better prepare. We seek victory, Mother, and we shall find it. Andrew, give me the captain, Andrew Luck, and the Indy Colts -1.5.
I think Indianapolis can win this game as well too. But what happens at the Texans?
By the way, how about their linebacker, Darius Leonard? Is that him? Is that the kid they took and he was the AFC Defensive Player of the Week, and he's leading the league in tackles?
Absolutely, yeah. He's a guy. He's a guy that you thought maybe the Steelers would definitely have some interest in it as well. What happens to Bob if Houston starts off 0-4 here? I mean, is Bob safe?
Well, I think he's safe. Here's the thing: is you remember, when we were talking about good young quarterbacks, Deshaun Jackson was the kid who set the world on fire last year. He was,
Watson.
What did I say? Sorry, Jackson. Deshaun Watson was the kid who set the world on fire last year, and he wasn't exactly Pat Mahomes, but he was clearly the best young quarterback, and we haven't really seen that so far this year. He has struggled a little bit. And he gets kind of when, we just mentioned all these quarterbacks. We didn't mention Deshaun Watson. They need better play out of him. And look, I do think he'll be a good quarterback, but it's interesting to watch. This is a big game for them because, look, you remember when the Steelers started 0-4, getting to 8-8 was a heroic task. 0-4 kind of finishes your season. And this obviously is a division game.
I think the Colts can definitely win this, but I think the Texans get their first win of the season. Give me the Texans plus 1.5.
All right, Steeler fans rooting for the Falcons, -3.5 at home. Give me Andrew Luck and Matt Ryan. Give me Matt Ryan and the Falcons at home. But I'm gonna watch this game. This is a game I'm gonna be watching on Sunday because I haven't seen the Bengals. The Steelers obviously get them in 2 weeks. I want to see how they're playing.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching this as well too. Rooting for the Falcons, obviously. The Falcons at home, lay to 3.5.
The Bills did Vegas. They did Vegas wrong last week, and they might end up doing Vegas wrong again this week because they did Vegas right last week with their victory. But this line, if the Vikings had blown them out, this line would be 17 again too. But the Bills went out and played well defensively, particularly, which was the big surprise. 9.5 with the Pack. I think last week was a bit of a mirage, Dave. Let's go Pack -9.5.
I'm laying the 9.5 as well.
Lions +3 at the Cowboys. I was impressed with that, and I don't think the Cowboys are that good. So give me the Lions.
Dallas needs some receivers for sure, and yeah, I like what the Lions did. Give me the Lions on the road +3.
Jags -7.5 against the Jets. Hemming and Hahn. I'll take the Jags. I mean, Tennessee gave it to them last week. That was a bad, maybe a letdown. You shouldn't have letdowns in the NFL, but maybe a letdown after the good Patriots win. I'll take the Jags and lay the 7.5.
Yeah, I think this is going to be close for most of the game, but I think a late turnover, pick six or something ends up covering this. So give me Jaguars laying the 7.5 just because of a late score.
Chicago with hosting the Bucs. Now, another really interesting game. Fitzmagic still on display, but Jameis Winston back at practice this week saying all the right things. And it sounds like maybe a short leash on Fitzmagic if he has a bad first half. This isn't the defense you want to be playing against for your job. I'm going to take the Bears. I've not been impressed with Trubisky. I think for all the guys that we've seen, the young guys who are getting playing time, he has been the least impressive so far. So I don't love the Bears here, but I'll take him in a 24-20 type of game.
If you remove Khalil Mack from this thing, where is your head?
Yeah, the game's probably a pick'em game, and you're betting Tampa for sure.
I mean, just amazing that one guy can change, and the addition of one guy on the defensive side of the football can make us think, should we pick against the Bears this week, kind of thing.
If the season ends today, Pat Mahomes is your MVP, and Khalil Mack's your Defensive Player of the Year for sure.
I think the Buccaneers rebound back. I mean, Fitz, their offense is just, to me, too explosive. Give me the Buccaneers +3 on the road.
Philly -4.5 at Tennessee. I'll take the Eagles. Tennessee's a very hard team for me to get a handle on. One is I don't see them play very much, so that's point one. And two is what's up Mariota, etc.
I think the Eagles defense is the difference in this one. I'm laying the 4.5 on the road. That's a dangerous number though.
Cardinals +3.5 at home. I haven't paid attention. Is Josh Rosen making his debut? Is he getting the starting nod, or is Sam Bradford getting another chance at it?
I don't remember looking at that.
Okay, so I'm gonna look. I don't think Seattle's that. I don't think either of these teams are that good. Could Arizona go 0-16? I mean, are they that bad?
Rosen's making his first start.
Okay, give me the Seahawks -3.5.
Give me the Seahawks -3.5.
Here's a good one. Cleveland going across the country with Baker Mayfield making his first start. Cleveland +2.5. The Raiders desperate for a win at 0-3, kind of the end of their season if they lose this one, if they even considered having a season. I don't know. There's no hot seat for John Gruden. It doesn't matter. They could go 0-16. He's not getting fired. I'm going to take Baker Mayfield and the Browns. I keep saying I think the Browns are good, and now they got Tyrod Taylor. I was wrong about. I thought he was going to be better than he was, but now they got the kid in there. Let's go with the 4:00 game. Baker Mayfield and the Browns.
Gruden can't get fired, but Reggie McKenzie sure can, and probably should.
Reggie.
I'll take the Raiders at home, lay to 2.5.
San Diego -11. San Diego. The Chargers -11 against the 49ers. Yeah, I like the Chargers still, and this is an important game for them to win. So with your boy Jimmy done for the season, hopefully back for the opener next year, Chargers blow them out.
Jimmy's down. Chargers. I'll lay the points.
The Saints at the Giants. Saints -4.5. I'm with you. I love the Saints. Saints -4.5. I don't bet on Eli.
Yeah, I like the Saints on the road on this one too. -4.5.
Good game on Monday night. Chiefs go to Denver. Denver's still you got Von Miller. You've got good players on that Denver defense still. They're flying under the radar. Case Keenum at quarterback. They're getting 5 at home on a big national TV game. Until somebody stops this offense, I'm betting on the Chiefs every week. They may not cover every week, but it feels like they can put up 30 at will. So give me the Chiefs -5. Obviously, Vegas doesn't know what to do with this game.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to do with this one either. I smell a rat here. I think Chiefs win this on a field goal. So give me Denver +5 at home.
Dave, I agree with everything you said in the preview for the Steeler game. And so I think it's going to go the Steelers' way. I expect a better, it's hard to have much worse defensive efforts than they've had to this point in the season. I expect better in this game. I expect the offense to continue to roll. I do not expect this game to be close. I think the Steelers put it on them. What do I want to make the final score? 31-17, but I think it might be bigger than that.
Yeah, I want to go bigger, than the number. In fact, I think that this is set up for a push, in my opinion, here with this line. I think the Steelers score 30 this week. In fact, I have them 31. I actually have them right at 31-28 on this, but to cover the man, I'll go. The Steelers just barely cover 31-27. How's that?
All right. So you think a little tighter than I do. All right. I think
they give up. I'm with you. I think for most of the game, it's kind of looks like a cover, but I think they give up a late touchdown to get this thing a lot closer than maybe what we like.
All right. There you have it. That's week 4 in the books. I think we got all the games. I mean, they don't put up the no line games, so occasionally. We've missed these in the past, but I think we got them all.
I think we do as well, too. All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow David Todd on Twitter at David M. Todd. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit that donate button, upper right navigational bar. If you want a ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the ad-free button right next to the donate button. And we'll be back on Monday. We're going to be living fast again Sunday night into Monday there. It'll make for a quick night. We'll have a show up by noon on Monday, I'm sure, and have a good weekend.
As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Dave.